It is Tuesday, September 22nd. We have finished week 2 of the NFL season, and George and Rick are back at you with the M&M show. George, what a crazy week, right?
It was a wild week filled with lots of injuries and lots of missed opportunities.
Well, the good news is we're here to break down all of it, run you through it, get you a little fantasy knowledge, and there ain't no injuries on this show. I'm excited. George, you psyched about this?
I'm so psyched. Let's do this.
Let's go. Welcome back. So, we're going to review week 2. We got George with me. We're excited to have the group here today. George, we mentioned it on the get-go in the intro. Injuries. That is what the NFL week 2 brought us. The Niners, that defense is in trouble.
Niners are in a tough division this year. I don't know if they're going to be able to hack it, especially their division feels like whoever gets injured the least is going to take the prize because it's so difficult. It's going to be so difficult to make it happen and to really stand out in that division, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo getting hurt.
Jimmy Garoppolo,
week to week.
Solomon, Bosa, Mostert, Tevin Coleman. I feel like
Kittle.
Good Lord, Kittle. Like who that matters on that team? They have multiple all pros getting hurt. Like Kittle, hurt. Bosa. Like these are guys that you expect, like they're Pro Bowlers. They're all pros. They hurt. And like some of the, like Bosa, done. Like they're in trouble. And like you said, like that division, like nobody expected the Rams to be this good. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, they already lost at home to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals defense looks very good. And on top of that, Kyler Murray looks to have taken that next jump on that second-year quarterback, and he looks really good. And we already know that Kingsbury's going to chuck that ball all over the place. I'm feeling, again, and you mentioned it, the injuries, if they can stay healthy, which is a different term this year in the NFL, but if they can stay somewhat healthy, I'm looking really good on my bold pick for the Cardinals to win that division, right?
You are, yeah. The Cardinals look great. Their offense looks great. That I think I think the way that they're playing right now with DeAndre Hopkins and the offense in general, it's going to open up more opportunities for Kenyon Drake to really eat. I think the Cardinals are looking really great. I think the Rams are looking great. Mm-hmm. It's just a difficult division.
Great. Yeah.
And when you look at it, the ultimate irony is going to be this year for San Francisco. This is only week 2, but ultimate irony will be if Jordan Reed has a healthy and productive season.
Somebody mentioned that. I was watching a review show on the Big Boy Network and
the Ocho.
The Ocho, yes. And one of them, like Jordan Reed, obviously comes out, has a monster game without Kittle. And he wasn't like empty week 1 either. And it makes me, they said, could you imagine when Kittle comes back, if he can stay healthy with George Kittle? And I was like, whoa, that's pretty dirty. Like, no, I can't really imagine that. That's kind of insane.
Yeah. They're missing a lot of pieces, particularly from the receiver position. When they get a little bit healthier, with Deebo Samuel coming back, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, Brandon Ayuk actually showing up a little bit more than he has been. Hopefully that's going to help. Jerick McKinnon being somebody that catches a lot of balls. Hopefully they're going to look pretty good. Hopefully Garoppolo's not that hurt. But name is escaping me, but Garoppolo's backup, he's never that bad anyway. He's usually
Nathan, not Peterman, but I know you're talking about the kid. I think the kid's from Iowa. Doesn't matter. I mean, that's what I'll tell you is it seems like to an extent, right, to a certain extent, the San Francisco 49ers quarterback is a little bit plug and play, right? Like, not the Garoppolo's.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. not that Garoppolo's bad, but let's not go out here pretending like Garoppolo is Tom Brady in his prime or Peyton Manning or any of these guys, right? He's a game manager, and that's all they want is a game manager. They're going to run the ball a ton. They're going to do what they do, and you think they're fine. It's just, man, the injuries that continue to pile. Like at some point, you got to feel like you're out of running backs. You know, you got 2 running backs hurt. McKinnon is on the all injury team most other years, so like it's only a matter of time till he goes down with an Achilles or a knee, and so you just wonder how long all of that's going to last. So it'd be interesting to see how injured guys like Coleman and Mostert are, because I think that's where their ability to play offensively might start to hinder and suffer. And as a guy who owns Kittle in a league, like I have legitimate concerns about that as well. Like Garoppolo's not throwing him the ball, like, and they don't have a running back. Like at some point, again, it's going to hurt. And how's that going to affect my Kittle coverage? So let's move on to, other injuries. So we've got 2 guys at least, right? And I may have missed somebody here. We've got Barkley, who's a big fantasy player, out for the year. Now, granted, he hadn't put up a ton of points so far this year, but he's done. And we have Sutton done, official for the year. So with both of those, you wonder, what are people going to do to go get that? And then how are those, how are they going to replace that that yardage, right? So I look at Denver, and you think Jerry Jeudy has got to be a guy that's starting in leagues now, right?
He's definitely starting, but you have to take a look at the quarterback health there as well.
Drew Lock, yeah.
He's hurt. Noah Fant looks like he's coming on pretty good. So if you went out and got Noah Fant based on a lot of the positive talk that was coming out of the preseason.
Some of that on our show, by the way.
Some of that on our show. Then you're in good shape. But I just think the Broncos, between Philip Lindsay getting hurt and between a lot of the injuries that they've had there, the fact that they're kind of hanging their hat on a second-year tight end and a first-year wide receiver, as good as he is, I don't think it's going to be a very good year for the Broncos. It's going to be a building year.
They're not winning a ton of games. That's I'm with you there. Saquon, shame to see it. Now there was some heat, right? A lot of people came out. He started deleting stuff off his Instagram. Was that all personal, or does he really want to leave the Giants that bad, or the Giants that much of a mess? Hold on, I have to ask George, and this is something I should have done right out of the gate. Giants or Jets, or are you elsewhere?
So I think you could take the Giants and Jets, put their current healthy roster together, and it still would be a team that's at the bottom of the league.
But who are you a fan of?
Neither.
No? Who's your team, George?
I've always followed Dallas.
Dallas. Okay, he's a Cowboy fan. That explains your anger against the Cowboys. We'll get to that in just a minute. So back to Barkley. Is he leaving the Giants?
Let him leave. I mean, every year recently, it feels like he is the, without question, first pick overall, second pick overall, and then we're getting back into fantasy, but this has to do with overall production. They need a team that can consistently score points, and that's not leaning too heavy on one asset versus the other. And mostly Captain Check down there with Saquon Barkley, nothing infuriates me more than him getting like 15 catches for 50 yards, because both in real life and in fantasy, because you're really not going to get very far doing that. I don't think the Giants have much else there, but I also don't think he's really showed himself to be somebody that could stay consistently healthy.
Yeah,
and can be the cornerstone of a team.
It's hard to argue with that. C-Mac got hurt. Unfortunately, sucks for fantasy owners. Unfortunately, I don't think, like, for that team, it doesn't matter, right? Like, Carolina's not very good.
They're not. So they're not a very good team. they're not used to winning at this point. So it feels like that they're going to get their 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. You're gonna get some Robbie Anderson action. He's looking pretty good. You're gonna get probably whoever, if it's Mike Davis or
Little Davis action, yeah.
or Bonafart part or whatever Bonfart, whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're gonna see things every once and again, but that's because the team can't stay in the game.
Yeah.
They can't control the clock.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the issue. They were a team that was leaning on running, that can't control the clock.
Right. No, you're not wrong. My boy Paris Campbell got hurt. We don't have to go in depth on it. The one lucky piece there, if you're a Colts fan, is that Pittman's there. Pascal's a veteran. I think they can overcome that. T.Y. Hilton's got to step up, though.
Mm-hmm. He's got to. Pittman, I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be. Yeah. If this year is too early, he's definitely going to be a really great asset next year. T.Y. Hilton is explosive. He's been hurt for the past maybe year and a half, a couple of years, a couple of different seasons, but he's had plenty of time to get healthy. JT time.
Hey, I'm a Colts fan. I'm not going to argue with you. JT time, and let's get a little Wilkins in there too, and let's not fall behind. So if you're a Chaim Hines owner, this week against the Jets, probably not a great start. Mm-hmm. Just realistically, I don't expect them to be behind the Jets, but I didn't expect them to be behind Jacksonville. So we'll see what happens. But I thought that Colts team showed up finally against what I thought, like, the Vikings had a good, like, the Vikings did not lose at week 1 because their offense was bad. The Vikings lost week 1 because their defense gave up 45 points. The Vikings lost week 2 because the Colts defense shut them down.
Yeah, the Vikings are really missing. They're really hurting from Diggs leaving. They lack identity. Yeah. Obviously they're a run first, throw second team, or they're at least set up to be with Dalvin Cook.
Man, but they're just not running the ball. And part of it, I think, is because they get down early so much.
It's hard to run the ball when you're down so early. The defense has not looked great, and that's not something I'm used to seeing in Minnesota. So
you're not? Yeah, no, I'm with you there. All right. With all these injuries, one has to say, the NFLPA, and we know there's going to be a new collective bargaining agreement. That negotiation is going to start soon. The NFL, we've seen the NFLPA try to remove some preseason games or do some different things. Do you think this changes, like, the way that's looked at? Because you have to look at this and say, man, teams weren't up to game speed and people got hurt, right? And we're not talking about just like, a nagging ankle injury, right? We're talking a lot of like, I don't remember ever having a year like this where ACLs are just getting snapped like it's people's job. So what do you think about that?
I think that there's a lot of evidence of lack of preparation. This felt like that this was the most up in the air and surprise week 1 that I've ever seen in the NFL. Everything that we might be talking about this a little bit later, but it seems like teams are just haven't even drilled on some of the most common things that could happen in a game, like aka the Falcons.
Yeah.
The Falcons for their onside kick. So
we'll definitely, I mean, that's our next talking point. Let's just jump into that. Biggest surprise from week 1. We both have to have the same one here. What are the Falcons doing, right? Like, I read, so I wasn't watching that game, right? I was red zoning, and all of a sudden you just see, like, oh, Dallas scored again. Oh, they're still, well, first off, why were they going for 2? Right? It's 30-39. Why are you going for 2? Mm-hmm. That's dumb. Neither here nor there. You kick the extra point and score that 2 when you have to. Neither here nor there. They scored another touchdown and then somehow got that onside kick. Falcons, jump on the ball. What are you doing? Special teams coach, you're out. You're gone. You're fired. It's immediate. It's automatic. That can't happen, right?
It can happen.
Well, I
If
can't say it can't when it happened, huh?
well, it should not be tolerated, I guess is the way to put
Yeah.
it. Um, there was Falcon players that were not afraid to touch the ball until it rolled past 10 yards, when that's what the Dallas Cowboys should be afraid of. That's not what they should be afraid of. It felt like that they haven't really done an onside kick drill all off season, and maybe that's just because of the way that things have been with COVID. Maybe it's lack of preparation by their coaching staff. Um, the first week, and this is coming from a Cowboys fan, the fact that Mike McCarthy didn't kick that field goal to get us, I believe it was to tie us up real late. Um, it was either that or to keep us close, keep us within a touchdown. And the fact that he didn't kick that field goal and he went for it, and we didn't get it, uh, he went from being the person that looks like that he deserves to lose his job to now somebody that blew a 15-point lead with 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. It's not something that that should happen in professional sports.
It's bad. I can't disagree. It's bad. It's just insane. I look at it. Arthur Blank came out, I think it was today or yesterday, and was saying, "I don't know how this happened. You don't love your owner going to the papers, and I mean, I don't think it's necessarily even his fault. Like, people are shoving a camera in his face and the mic, but like that looks bad from the head coach down. Like, Dan Quinn looks bad. Everybody looks bad there.
One of
So
my favorite memes is Blank. Remember when they were in the Super Bowl and they got up
capitulated.
really, yeah, they got up really early, and then like he was down on the field, like ready to celebrate, and then they just ended up losing that game. It feels like it's very Falcons for that to happen.
It is. You can't argue with it. It is. It is the Falcons. That team, realistically, like, they were in that game and they were up against Seattle and lost. And Seattle's a good team, but they were up. Like, this can't happen. Can't happen. Neither here nor there. Good for Dak. Dak had a monster game. Dak fantasy owners should be happy. But that's easily the biggest surprise from the week two that was outside of, again, all of the injuries. Give me a team and then a player, not necessarily from the same, who's just impressed you through 2 weeks.
The impressive team is the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And they're getting it done through their explosive offense, getting it done through throwing the ball to Chris Carson, of all things, DJ Metcalf.
That was a surprise, right? Like, Metcalf doesn't surprise me to be having a big year. Like, he had a good year as a rookie, and he's having a big year this year. But for Carson to be catching the ball, then can't say I expected that.
Yeah, Lockett is performing really well. There's just that offense looks very explosive, and when it came down to it, they were able to beat the Patriots, who arguably have a really great defense.
Right. Yeah.
Goal line stance, Cam Newton was able to convert every time he's tried so far against them. Fourth quarter, where it really mattered, they were able to stop them.
And a big individual effort on the outside there. So that, yeah, big stop there. So your team and you went same place. So you went Carson and the Seahawks, which it's hard to disagree with the way he's getting the rock, not necessarily the way he's toting it. My biggest surprise through 2 weeks is going to be the Rams, and I think we're going to touch on it a little bit later during our fantasy segment. But one, I didn't expect them to. I thought they were going to be garbage this year. I didn't expect them to be 2-0, and I didn't expect I knew they'd be a little bit of a running back by committee, but I didn't expect this. All right, I didn't expect it to be Malcolm Brown 1 week with big points, and then Henderson 1 week with big points. And it seems if they can plug and play some running backs and be able to tote the rock, that's a huge. The Rams being 2-0 is really surprising to me. And that division, that's not a division you want to be a part of right now.
Yeah, I've watched I've been watching them closely. Robert Woods looks like he's just money. I'll give you another surprise, and somebody that I think, not to get back into fantasy, but it's kind of what my mind thinks about primarily, I should say. But if the draft was to happen again, is Aaron Jones a top 5 pick? Based on what we've seen, because he's ridiculous. Everybody just thought it wasn't going to continue. The party wasn't going to continue. And here he is lighting it up. And I would say close second is the way that the Packers have been able to play and get it done.
My concern about the Packers is definitely still their defense, right? Now, granted, I think the Lions scored 21 points quickly, and then the Packers shut them out the rest of the game. But the reality is like you can't. That defense is a little bit mediocre. However, I don't know that anyone stopped. Like, oh, let's key in on Aaron Jones. Okay, well, Adams and Rodgers are just going to chuck it then. And they have Scantling and they have Lazard. Like they've got other receivers there as well that can still get it done. So I think that's a really good shout as well. It's been an exciting 2 weeks of football. There's no shortage of storylines. I'm excited to see where this season goes. And, I have a lot of hope for my teams. I feel lucky in my fantasy league. You said, like, taking it back to fantasy. I was able to get Ezekiel Elliott and Aaron Jones in our league. And, like, I'm going to knock on the wood and pray to the fantasy football gods that they stay healthy. Because if they do, I feel really good about winning our league. So that's that. George, parting words before we move on to the next segment.
Everything's crazy. There's so many MVP candidates, even from the quarterback position. It's who's going to be the MVP at the end of the year. So far, it doesn't look like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. It looks more like a Russell Wilson conversation at this point.
Yeah, it looks like a Russell Wilson conversation. There's a lot of crazy things going on this year. It's going to be a fun year, so I'm excited to preview week 2 for you coming up next.